Hello, my friends. Here I am, Pedro Candeias, the founder of Karate Science Academy. I'm back to our weekly open classes, okay, on YouTube of Karate Science Academies, of course. And here I am with a new team. Why technique shouldn't be your first priority if you want to be a great karate fighter, okay? Before I enter the class, the lesson itself, let me warn you that I'm returning with the same system I had in the first 7 open classes on YouTube. Most of them are going to be eliminated from the channel when I publish a new one. I will share, okay, an open lesson every Wednesday on every week, so when I publish a new one, 90% of the lessons will be taken out so I can develop. That's what I'm trying to do with this method, is to develop, is to filter those who really want to go deeper into through evidence-based training methodology. Okay, so please, if you really want to follow this type of lessons, subscribe the channel with the notifications activated so you can receive a warning from YouTube, or just go to our Telegram channel. There is the link is in the description below, where I also announce when the new class comes out, and where I share the PDFs I decide to share to help you to better understand the lesson, and so you can have that information, at least the foundational information of each class, on your computer to study or to consult later, even when the video is out. Okay, I'm going to share this time the PDF of this presentation. Okay, so stay tuned. Let's talk about a very, I know it's a hard theme, because it was the first time I was invited to speak in a martial arts conference. Okay, I took this team on purpose because I think it's a team that moves, that I'm missing the term, that I know I'm going to remember later, but it goes against a lot of beliefs there are in the karate's world regarding kumite, regarding the traditional way we teach technique in karate, especially if we really want to develop our karatekas fighting skills. If we are karatekas that follow a more traditional Okinawan style of training and teaching karate, many dojos don't even make free fight, okay, in any sort, sort of form, okay. But those who really want to increase their karateka's ability in WKF Kumite, Kyokushinkai, full contact karate, self-defense, okay? Whenever we want to develop our karateka skills to be effective in an open fight, regardless of the type of fight we are talking about, it's very important that you take this class into account. Is everything evidence-based, not Pedro's opinion? And the last one I gave, the 7th class, is available since 1 month ago, when I posted the last one, because then we started the certified course Explosive Karate 2021. It gave me a lot of work to get it done, so I stopped. I'm returning now, but the last lesson is always it's available yet. Okay, so please go and watch it, because this class and the last one are going to be eliminated from the channel in the next week when I publish the new one, and they are related to each other, and I really believe it will change the way many karate teachers see the learning and the teaching process of fighting. Okay, so as you know, my English is not that perfect. Okay, so I'm going to make some cuts in the lesson, so because I get more fluid in my speech if I divide the lesson in smaller parts, and then I gather them all in the same video. So let's start with the first part. This was an introduction. So first of all, I want to warn you that this is not going to be only about WKF Kumite. So stay till the end and please watch it so you can observe if you really follow this type of strategy, okay, in terms of teaching how to fight. And I'm going to start with a little story that happened to me. Okay, first of all, I want to tell you that technique is very important, of course, for karate performance, for fighting performance. Okay, but I brought this theme to make you thinking about if there is another strategy to develop your karateka's fighting skills, more evidence-based, and that will bring you more and faster results than the traditional way we use in karate. Okay, but let me tell you a little story. Okay, I am a Goju Ryu karateka. Okay, and we make a certain type of fight that some call randori, other ones call irikumi. It doesn't matter. Okay, the name it doesn't matter. It's a type of fighting in close distance. Okay, where we can do literally anything. Gaiden moashigeris, kicks to the groin, using our elbows, knees, grabbing, throwing. Okay, it's a more dynamic, that's not more dynamic, a more versatile type of fighting, more directed to some kind of self-defense. Okay, not a sports version of fighting, as for example WKF Kumite. So in one seminar, I had a very respected, great Goju Ryu karate master that was insisting on with all the karatekas there that we should make our maigeri without moving our hips. Okay, just the snap. Okay, very fast maigeri without putting the hip to more distance or to more power, for example. Okay, so we spent some hours perfectioning that, and then in another seminar with another very respected Goju Ryu master from the same lineage, from the same organization, also a great karateka, a person that I really respect in terms of performance, in terms of fighting, as the first one. Okay, and he corrected us and insisted so that we should put a little bit our hip, okay, in the maigeri, so we could develop more power and cover a greater distance. For example, if your opponent gets a little bit backward, you can reach him the same way because you compensate with the hip. Okay, for example. But well, after those two seminars, I was thinking, whoa, what's happening here? Okay, what's the correct way? In karate, we are always looking for the perfect technique, the ultimate version of the maigeri, the gyakuzuki. We have a very closed mind regarding technique, and we just want to know what's the perfect kion. Yes, that happens with lots of karatekas. Okay, I think those who follow the more competitive path are more open and evolved more in terms of adaptability in terms of technique, tactics, and all of that in terms of fighting. But this is just an opinion. This is an opinion, okay? It has the value that it has, okay? It doesn't matter. So then I was thinking, and then I started to dig deep, really deep into evidence regarding human performance, human movement, to understand better to better understand the training methodology for karate, what is right, what is wrong, what is better, what is secondary, okay? And then in some point, I got to a lot of evidence about decision-making skills, not only about sports, but in general, our brain makes decisions, unconscious, conscious, okay? And then I really got very, very interested in that theme. And then studying and reading, I found the answer for the technical issue about the Maigaris. The problem was that both masters didn't explain, not necessarily a mistake, okay, but it didn't occur to them, okay, in that moment, that one of them wanted the Maigari without any hip movement because he wanted to stimulate a very fast Maigari, a very snapping Maigari, okay, that was to target the groin, for example. That is a part of our body that doesn't demand a great amount of power to make damage, okay? So it just wanted a snap without giving a cue that we were going to attack, okay? Without let me see in my dictionary. Yeah, I'm missing a very important word to what I'm saying. I'm sorry. These are my exposing, without exposing our intention, okay? So no hips, no movement, just the leg, okay? The other one wanted to stimulate, wanted to see, or it was his preferred technique, and the first master had another perspective of fighting, okay? It doesn't matter the reason, but he wanted the Maigari with the hip because it would produce more power and it would allow us to cover more distance, and it could be used to the groin or some harder part of our body as the abs, for example, okay, the trunk, okay, that makes all sense, okay? That makes a lot of sense, and that's the problem. It's that we tend in karate to not contextualize the techniques before repeating it or repeating them thousands and thousands and thousands of times, okay? And let's go now understand first the role of technique, okay, in karate and in fighting, and then I make a stoppage and continue with the last part with this lesson, okay? Just another thing. This is the classes where I just speak, and who wants to hear, great. What doesn't want to bother, great. The same way, friends as always, okay? Imagine, I always like to give examples outside of karate, because when we just see this, we lose perspective of our own modality, of our own discipline. So we must look to other disciplines around us: football, exercise, bodybuilding, driving, whatever, okay? Because it will help us to better understand our own discipline, okay? Imagine those soccer, football. I use the word soccer because in certain parts of the world, football is the American, what we call the American football. But let me see, just juggler. Yes. Okay. We have those football or soccer jugglers that make amazing juggling with the football ball, the soccer ball. Okay. Technically, we can affirm that they are perfect. Okay. They have such a control in terms of technique, in terms of refinement of each movement, the way they touch the ball, so the ball goes wherever they want, okay? But the truth is, they are not professional soccer players in a team. Why? Why don't those jugglers, soccer jugglers, just go to a medium level club in England, Spain, Portugal, Argentina, Canada, okay, and just get there and let me make a proof to enter in your team, because juggling I don't earn any money, or what I earn is very little compared to a professional soccer player, okay, and I want to make part of a professional soccer player so I can earn 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 euros or dollars per month. The truth is, if any of those jugglers just go to a team and show their technical skills, people are going to stay impressed. But then put them on the pitch, playing on a team, reacting to the opponent, to the pressure, to the amazing amount of decisions they have to make in an entire game. Okay, they have to know the distance they have to run. They have to decide where to pass the ball when they are pressed, when they are have lots of space. If the colleague is running and avoiding defense, to then play the goal and receive the ball. You need to know your position on the field so your defense is protected, and that doesn't work, because the juggler that is technically perfect won't have a bunch of fundamental skills for being a professional soccer player. Compared to this, it's the same as I have a karateka that is incredibly gifted in terms of technique. He spent hours and hours making all types of sequence, fighting sequence, punch, power, all of that, all kinds of kicks, sequences, very fast, very spectacular. And then he goes to the tatami. He doesn't know. He didn't develop the tactical skills. We are going to develop that later. The tactical skills, the decision-making skills, the reaction skills, to just win to another athlete that is not so skilled technically, but as a great defense is used to train with partners that don't always cooperate. Okay, he has a great defense, a great kizami, a great gyaku, and that's it. And he will win 7, 8 times 0. No doubt about that. Okay, so let's start digging a little bit more into the true role of technique in fighting. Okay, so let's go. First, in kata, technique is the central element. There is no doubt about that. The rules of WKF value the technical skills 70%, the athletic skills 30%. This is this shows us how important is technique in kata. We personally, when we are watching karatekas, competitors or not, doing a kata, we always prefer that karateka that has a very refined technique, even if it's not so powerful in terms of physical skills, compared to that karateka that is very powerful, very fast, but the technique, the feet is off, and the knee should be here, and the hand should be there, and then the posture should be. Yes, that's true. So technique is the queen of kata, is the central element. Okay, then that then is potentiated by physical skills, by the mental skills. Okay, in kumite, not only WKF kumite, on every kind of fighting, technique is just important, but it's just a tool to so that the athlete can make the most out of his or her cognitive and physical skills. It's just a tool. Okay, it's not the central element. It's not the element that will make really the difference. Is important, as the physical skills are important, but it's not the priority. It's not the central element. It's not the technique that will make you win a fight. Okay, it's important. It will get you to a higher level of performance, but it's not the central element. Okay, let me see my notes so I don't miss anything. Okay. Oh, for example, in kata, even in kata, technique depends on the interpretation of kata. If we get 10 karatekas performing the same kata but from different schools that have different bunkais for that kata, we will see little differences, small differences between them, because they are interpreting the movement differently. So even in a closed task as kata, technique is also adapted to our interpretation of what we are doing. Okay, so this also makes us think. Okay, then we have another comparison, and this is the last slide from this part. I'm going to cut, and then I continue with the more technical part of the lesson. Okay, WKF kumite and full contact kumite. Okay, any kind of karate we want to knock out our opponent, okay, have different perspectives of technique. For example, in a full contact fight, a karateka that goes to MMA, like Kyoto Mashida here, for example, in Kyokushinkai, in Karate Combat, the knockout is important. Is the main reason they are there. They want to knock out the opponent so they can win as fast as possible. Okay, so technique is important because it will improve their performance. They will have a more efficient movement. They will be less exposed when attacking. The power will be greater. The balance will be greater. So technique is important. Okay, of course, but there isn't a technical standard that they need to accomplish. If they punch the opponent like this and he falls, we won. Yes, there is no reason to penalize or no. WKF kumite is a little bit different. Regardless of technique, is not the central element the same way, but we have a criterion in the WKF rules that is good form, that demands a certain type of technical standard. Okay, if I go to WKF kumite and make a punch like this, I won't be scored a point, okay? Because it's not considered a good form, for example. You know that if you compete or you follow those kinds of things. But even there, we have a certain degree of liberty, freedom, degree of freedom, okay? Because I can, for example, and we can observe that in WKF kumite. For example, Duruma Oshigeri, some athletes raise a lot their knee so they can reach higher levels, so they can go around the defense of the opponent, for example. But we also have top-level Kumite athletes that win world championships, making Uramoa Shigeris with the knee facing down and just making this snap towards the opponent's head, okay? And both are scored. So we have a certain degree of freedom in this technical standard, but we know that there are a certain expectation from the judges so they can score a point. It's not just getting there without the opponents defending. No, I have to meet some technical standards. Okay, so let's go to the next part of this lesson. So let's now start to understand once and for all what's tactics and what's the role of tactics in Kumite development, in fighting development. Okay, so this sentence is very important. That's why I have it alone, okay, in a slide, so we don't distract with anything else. So scoring a point or knocking out the opponent is mostly based on a tactical decision of performing a given technical action. I'm going to translate this, okay? Always according to the opponent's actions and reactions. This is what makes your karatekas effective in point fighting or in knockout fighting or self-defense, okay? So let's start by WKF Kumite, because I know that most of the audience that watch my classes, my lessons are from practice WKF Kumite, okay? So let's analyze it a little bit deeper, okay? So in WKF rules, we have in the criteria for scoring a point, we have one technical criterion, that is good form. We have two decision-making criteria, that is having good timing and good distance. Both depend on our decision-making skills, our cognitive process during the fight. And we have a physical criterion, that is vigorous application. Then we have also Zanshin, for example, that we can consider it a psychological, okay, a mental criterion, but this is not the issue of this lesson, okay? So let's see. Even then, the WKF Kumite as a technical standard, we have two criteria that depend more on decision making, okay? But let's analyze a little bit more also the good form and the vigorous application. Good form, as we talked about a little while, okay? Technique in WKF Kumite has a certain degree of freedom, okay? It's not close, it's not gymnastics, okay? We have a movement, and that movement must be that way so it can be scored the maximum points, okay? But in fighting, even in the WKF Kumite, good form also depends on the tactical situations, on the context, on the opponent actions and reactions, okay? Sometimes we make the punch more close to the body. Sometimes we make a little rounded because we want to get over the opponent's guard, for example. Sometimes we raise more our knee in Uramoa Shigeri to round the defense or to get our opponent even when he evades his head, for example, or we just can lift the knee a little bit less so it can look a shouldn't Gary, and then from the knee to the foot, we throw it to the head. Okay, we have that degree of freedom. Ou seja, I'm already talking Portuguese. In other words, we must know that even in WKF Committee, the good form is also influenced by the situation we encounter during the fight. We adapt our techniques to the fighting situation. Okay, and even the physical criterion will always depend if you are fast to decide. If you're not, you won't be able to use your entire physical potential, because you decide too late and you won't be able to finish the technique, because you get stuck, you hesitate, and when you hesitate, you won't perform your maximum speed and power. Okay, so everything is related more or less with decision making, with the tactical skills. Okay, so let's start, and I'm going to give you an example. I think you can try it easily the next lesson in your dojo. If you grab those intermediate beginner karatekas, you make them or advanced karatekas that are not used to train with some random stimuli, okay, that are very important to develop fighting skills, not practicing closed bunkais, closed ippon comités, that we develop those skills. Okay, but that's another talk to another day. Okay, you have to include semi-opened, okay, or opened exercises to develop the decision-making skills of your karatekas. Please watch the seventh lesson that is available, okay, right now on YouTube. I also shared the PDF, a very deep PDF with new information that I didn't give in that lesson. I have that PDF available to download on our Telegram, okay, channel. So go there, download it, and read it for please. And I lost myself. Grab two pads, two paws, call it what we want, and make it like put them like this, still. And ask your karatekas to punch as fast and as hard as possible. Bam, bam, bam. Kizami, gyaku, gyaku, kizami, bam, 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 bam. Okay? Now, put your hands behind your back with the paws. And then you say, when the paw shows up, you have to punch it as fast, as harder as possible. The same as you were doing when I had my hands here. Okay? And you will see that although they are used to practice those kinds of drills, their physical performance will be lower compared to the situation where they didn't have to make decisions. They just had to punch as fast, as hard as they could. Okay, if you make this, you break the rhythm. This, you will see that most of karatekas, if they're not trained in this kind of drills, they won't be able to reach their maximum physical potential. Okay, because the brain gets stuck and is not prepared to activate the muscles as most as possible. Okay, so you have to include those kinds of drills. This is an example so you can test it to understand the importance of making those kind of decision-making exercises and how that influences the vigorous application in karate. Okay, so let's go now to the teaching part of the lesson. Okay, you should follow this kind of sequence teaching your karatekas to fight. If you don't want him to fight, you don't have to follow any of this. You don't have to watch this lesson. You just have to practice Kihon, Bunkai, Kata. That's enough. It's an option. That's your life. I'm not. I don't have nothing to do about it. Okay. I'm just here to share knowledge. Okay. Not to judge anyone or anything. Okay. Because I really believe that karate is what we want it to be. Okay, so be free to make what you want. But you, if you really want to have good fighters, if you have a dojo that really dedicates to on building champions, for example, in WKF Kumite or other kinds of karate fighting, okay, you should follow this strategy. What happens is that we make the contrary. There are schools that in their grading programs just include Kumite from, for example, the green belt. Why? I don't understand the reason, okay? What they do is what we do, most of us, is this. We teach the Maigari, the Mawashigari, the Gyakuzuki, the Kizamizuki, the Uramawashigari, the displacements, the blah, 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 the defense, okay? Yes? And we make our students repeat that to the exhaustion, and we are always correcting the angle of the feet, okay, I understand. Then they spend thousands of hours perfectioning, improving the technique, and then, okay, let's start fighting or developing your Kumite skills, okay? It's a strategy. It leads to results, yes, but it's not the best way to teach our brain how to control all the variables he has to control in a fight. Okay, he learns better this way. I'm going to give you another example outside of karate. How do we learn how to drive a car? Okay, we get there, the instructor sits us on the car bench, car seat, okay, bench, the car seat, and he teaches us the basics of gear change, okay, how to grab how can I say, how do we say volant? I know this, but sometimes my brain, the wheel, okay, how do we grab the wheel, what's the movement we must do, what I have to make with my feet in the pedals, okay, the brake, the accelerator, the gear, qualquer coisa. And then we have the basics. We move that one or two times. Then we put the car on the road and we improve all those technical skills on the road, not seated on the car seat, and we repeat. Gear 1, gear 2, gear 3, gear 1, gear 2, thousands of times. Then let's see, turn to the right, 500 times, turn to the left, to the left, 500 times. Now your feet must do this 1,000 times. Then we are going to link the gear change with the feet. And then after 6 months, 1 year, 2 years of practicing the technique in the car, we go to the road. Okay, we could learn how to drive like that, yes. It would be as fast as the strategy everybody used, that is teaching us the basics, put us on the road, and we are going to improving our technical skills during the process of driving the car. This is the best example I can find of how our brain works and learns. Of course, then, if you want to be a Formula One world champion, you have to master to the detail the technical skill of driving the car. But even there, they put you on the track without no one, without any other cars, without any pressure of speed, of intensity, but you are driving and improving it while you drive. Because the technique is always influenced by the external environment we face in each situation. Okay? And our brain learns from the beginning to develop a technique adapted to the several situations we encounter during the driving. And in karate, we make exactly the opposite. We make this strategy of putting the person changing gears for 6 months before putting on the road. Okay? So what we should do was teaching the basic coordination of a Maigeri, for example. Listen, the Maigeri is like this: you raise the knee, you straight your knee, and then you return. You know, okay? But from the very first moment, the instructors should demonstrate at least one scenario, one fighting scenario where the Maigeri will be useful. For example, when you are with your partner, when he raises his hands, he has his stomach open, and you grab that advantage, the opportunity, and you make this technique to his belly. Oh, okay, everything changes. Now they are repeating Maigeri with the visualization of a context where they can use that technique. And that is very important to make all the cognitive process working in another way and a more effective and faster way of learning how to apply the Maigeri in the fight. Then, okay, you do this, but you demonstrate, but then you put your karatekas making that Maigeri thousands of times for 1 month, facing the mirror. Okay, the same problem, out of context. I'm not saying you can't do that, because you also have to improve the technique, as is important. Okay, but put them at least half of those repetitions with a partner that can be stand there static. They can sense the distance, okay, the target, the accuracy of getting a certain target that is more effective for the technique. Okay, start giving them some context, start putting the opponent raising the arm, so they develop the timing when they must put the Maigeri, for example. I'm just giving examples, but when you know the principles, you get them and you develop all the exercises you need to reach this goal. Okay, so basic coordination of a given technique, contextualized in its practical environment, and how to adapt it to several scenarios. Then, of course, in that process, you will improve their technique and you will get several exercises. You can just correct them while they are making the Maigeri with the partner, while they are making a semi-open task, and then you also can grab them and put them in front of the mirror, repeating it several times so they can see themselves, for example, see that they are not raising the knee enough. For example, the technical improvement is very important, okay? But it's not the priority of a good fighter. The priority is the context, is the decision making, is when I use the technique, how I use the technique, in which distance I use the technique, how I adapt my Gary if my partner goes away, goes in my direction, goes to the side, stays still. All of this will influence the technique itself. So we don't just get our karateka repeat the same technique thousands of times and then we expect them to use them in a fight. That doesn't happen like that, okay? You know, how many karatekas that are amazing technically, you put them fighting, and sometimes even a karateka that puts easily a mawashi in the head just kicks the opponent's ass because the leg doesn't goes up. Why doesn't it go up? Or always stays too far from the target. Okay. Oh, great, my Gary, but it got half a meter from the target. The value of that technique in a fight, 0. Okay. It's the same thing as is the same thing as not knowing anything. Okay. It's the same efficacy, the same effectiveness. Okay, so this tactics, let's understand once and for all what tactics is not the same as strategy. Okay, tactics is not a 4-4-2 of football. 4-4-2 of football is the game system, is not tactics. Tactics is the ability to choose the proper technical action in response to an unpredictable scenario. The tactics is the decisions we are always making during a fight, in every situation we face, okay, during a kumite bout. That's tactics. The strategy is when with my coach, I'm there, I decided to I have a strategy where I'm going to try to control the center of the tatami. That's a strategy. And I'm going to use some tactics predetermined to try to accomplish my strategy. That is to control the center of the tatami. But then we have an opponent that also has a strategy, a goal, an ambition. He wants to win. So he also brings some predetermined tactics to accomplish his strategy. But then everything changes, and many times we can't apply the tactics we prepared to that fight because we have an opponent that is not let us doing what we want. So every decision I make, every technical action I choose to a given scenario that occurs is tactics. Okay, technique is the execution of improved coordinative actions that allow to make the most out of the cognitive and physical elements potential. Technique is very important, but it's not the central element. Okay, technique, and you should take this sentence here in red and put a sign in your dojo. Technique is only relevant after a successful tactical decision. Okay, any technique that is applied in the wrong distance, in the wrong timing, with too much power, for example, in WKF Kumite, if you punch your opponent, it's a fault, it's penalized. If you punch without enough power, for example, in a full contact karate fighting, you can have a great decision-making skills and grab it and reach the opponent, okay? But if the power is not enough, you will get the punch and will knocking out you right after, okay? Conor McGregor is an expert in that. Many times in slow motion, you see the hand of the opponent getting here, and then he gets them with full power, boom, in their face. Okay, so everything is important: tactics, technique, strategy, mental toughness, physical conditioning, but technique is queen in kata, in a closed task. Tactics is the queen or the king in kumite. Okay, and technique, the physical skills, etc., are the boosters of those cognitive skills. Okay, because for example, more than 50% of your speed in fighting is from cognitive processes. Okay, reaction, not physical speed. Physical speed is important so you can make the movement fast, but the decision when you decide to make the movement is more than a half of the result, and the speed in the fighting speed. Okay, never forget that. Now, to finish, technical methodology. Let's try to replace the tactical term from technical to technical. Do you understand? Okay, because tactics is more important in open sports, not only fighting, in soccer, in tennis, in rugby, in volleyball. Okay, every open sports are mostly tactical, and technique is important. It's in the name, but it's a way of potentiating tactical skills. Okay, so try to follow these guidelines. First of all, teach the correct answer to each fighting situation. This is called the tactical competence. You need to develop your karateka's tactical competence. Okay, they must know that they will find some scenarios in a fight, and they have to learn the correct answer or answers to each of those situations. Okay, then we have the technical action. Of course, with beginners, these two are connected. Okay, as we saw here. Okay, you teach the basic coordination of the technique, always contextualized. Okay, and then you go to the technical improvement. But for example, if you get more advanced karatekas and you want to teach a new technique, please give them first the fighting situation where they are going to need that technique. Okay, then you teach them the technical action that will solve that specific challenge in fighting. Okay, and then we with time go to the optimization of technique, the optimization of the biomechanical elements, so they can potentiate their tactical skills. And then we have the physical conditioning. Okay, that will make them faster, more resistant, stronger, more powerful, more flexible, more everything. Okay, it's also very important as technique, but the physical conditioning is not also the central element of a fight. Okay, if we could decide, if we wanted, let's see an extreme example. You just can choose one of these options. There is no middle term. One of these options. You are in the street and a guy will punch you in the face. Okay, an extreme example. You can only, it's like a game, a video game. You can only click one of these two buttons. Okay, one of the buttons is where you make a perfect defensive technical action, but in the wrong timing, too late or too soon. Or you can press the button where you are going to put your arm in front of the attack, of the opponent's attack, in the right timing, in the right distance, but the movement is a little bit raw, like this, for example, okay? Or this. Please think about it, and which one of the buttons would you press if you only had one chance? I have no doubt about my answer, okay? I hope you don't have it too. So listen, I hope you enjoyed the class. Please watch the 7th class that is very related to this, where I talk about why you shouldn't lose time reacting to lights, to floaters, to whatever, okay? In order to develop your reaction in fighting. They are complementary, these both classes, and I really believe it will change at least a little your way of teaching Kumite, okay? So subscribe to the channel, share these classes if you really feel they are valuable for anyone in karate or any martial art, okay? Go to our Telegram channel where I will have this PowerPoint available, so you can download it to your cell phone, for example. I also have there the PDF, very complete. Is an ebook, almost an ebook, okay, from the 7th class, where I add new information that I didn't share in the class, in the video itself, okay? So thank you very much. See you next week. Don't remember, this lesson and the last one will be out in 7 days, okay? Stay tuned, and thank you very much for following my work.